Hello, welcome to Focus in 3D, the podcast that empowers you to find deeper mental clarity, sharper mental focus, and live in calm energy to support your happiness, health, and reaching your dreams. Today, we're going to talk about my 3S system for developing sharper mental focus. And if you can imagine for a moment, have you ever sat down to do something important only to find your mind drifting and attention scattered and your clarity completely gone? Like literally in 2 minutes, you're completely distracted. Well, in this episode, we're diving into my powerful, simple framework I call the 3S framework, which is a guide to reclaiming your focus and sharper mental clarity. I coach my clients on this framework every week, every day. And it's so simple, but when you put it into practice, it is so very effective. So I thought it would make a good topic for our podcast today. Here are the three simple words. Number one is sleep. Number two is study. Number three is select. These three words may sound basic, but I promise you they hold the key to transforming your productivity, your mental focus, your mental wellness, and your inner drive. Let's start with sleep, the foundation of cognitive performance. Sleep has been studied so much more in the recent years. In fact, there's a whole new specialty in medicine called sleep medicine for a reason, for lots of reasons, actually. What we know from science is that every adult needs somewhere between 7 to 9 hours per night. That's really the sweet spot for most of us. Anything less disrupts our ability to memorize new information, also disrupts our ability to regulate our emotions, and negatively impacts our decision-making abilities. So if you struggle with focus, and you may or may not have ADHD like I do, you know that decision-making is already a very difficult skill. And depending on the context and depending on the size of the decision, we can really be paralyzed by that many times. And something as simple as improving our sleep and getting more hours of sleep can really have a profound change, a profound effect on how well we're able to make decisions with confidence and clarity throughout our day. We also naturally, as ADHDers, have difficulty with emotional regulation. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's a skill that we can improve. And if we care about our relationships, we probably should take some priority in improving that skill. But one simple thing that you can do to help improve that is getting enough sleep. It's very widely known that when we don't sleep enough on a chronic basis, that we struggle with our anxiety, we struggle maybe with depression, and it obviously worsens our ADHD symptoms. And so that's one of the very important motivators for me in getting enough sleep and making sure I say goodnight and finish my day in a time that's going to allow me to get enough rest to be productive and a nice person and a happier person the following day. If you can relate to that, drop a comment. Also, the ability to memorize new information. Now, memorizing new information is like learning new information and holding it in our brain. And this is something that gets harder naturally anyway as we age. And when we have ADHD, we already struggle with something called working memory and how well we apply things we learn to our new skills. Well, if you already struggle with these types of things as a baseline in your brain function, imagine how much more negatively impacted they are when you're not sleeping enough. So if for nothing else, if you want to feel smarter, just try getting a few more hours or maybe an extra 30 minutes of sleep every night, depending on where you are. Now, there's two really good books that I recommend for learning more about sleep and the importance of sleep. I'm not going to sit here and go through all of the scientific data because that would make for a really boring podcast, in my opinion. But there are two books that I love and that I use as references when I'm researching certain topics around sleep to present to either my clients or when I'm speaking or writing. And one of them is called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker. He's a PhD. That is a very in-depth book. It's got excellent scientific facts in it. And the other one is The Sleep Revolution by Arianna Huffington. I admire Arianna Huffington very much. I'm a big fan. I love her writing, I love her style, and I love how vulnerable she is in the book. And she even tells a very life-changing story about the time that she collapsed at work because of chronic sleep deprivation. So that is a great read as well. And if you find Why We Sleep by Dr. Walker to be a little more boring and too science forward for you to be engaged, I highly recommend The Sleep Revolution. Now, here's some physiologic reasons why sleep matters. Our brain is an interesting organ in that it has the ability to detoxify itself or cleanse itself every night when we sleep. During sleep is when the brain clears out excess protein that's called beta amyloid. And if you've done any reading or research about Alzheimer's disease or dementias, then you know that beta amyloid is the protein that is found in excess in the brains of patients who have passed away with Alzheimer's disease. When they've done autopsies, they've found an excessive amount of beta amyloid in the brain. And beta amyloid, this protein, think of it as kind of like clogging your thought center, right? It's congesting your ability to be able to function properly, think clearly, and remember things. There are other things you can do to help the process, right? Like getting plenty of exercise, eating a healthy diet with fatty fish and omega 3s. But the other key component to that is getting enough sleep, because it's during our sleep that our brain naturally clears out the excess beta amyloid so it doesn't stay there and congest our brain circuits. So if you want to try to improve your chances of living a higher quality life with greater mental clarity and mental sharpness, you want that beta amyloid to be cleared out. And the best way to do that, an easy way to do that, that's cheap and doesn't require a prescription, is get enough sleep, guys. So important. Another physiologic part of sleep that is very important is REM sleep. REM sleep is the stage of sleep where we're able to consolidate long-term memories and we're able to enhance our creative powers in our brain. Now, even if you're not the creative type, maybe you're not a writer or content creator or singer or actor or dancer, or you're not an artist per se, your job is not in the creative realm, you still need creative brain function to be able to solve problems. Problem solving in daily life does require some amount of creativity mixed with logic and life experience and facts. So when you get enough REM sleep, you enhance your creative abilities in your brain. And that's good for all of us, regardless of what type of job we have, especially if we're in a creative field. But even when we're not, we need that creative power for effective problem solving. And back to learning, REM, as I mentioned, helps to consolidate long-term memories. So if you're experiencing something that you want to be able to hold as a memory for yourself, something that's precious for you, a family vacation or a beautiful time that you had between your mom and yourself, or your kids and yourself, or your partner in your loving relationship. You want to be able to hold those memories. And REM is the stage of sleep where we're able to consolidate those long-term memories so we can make sure that we're able to hold on to them longer. There's another stage of sleep called deep wave sleep or slow wave sleep. Sorry, deep sleep, I misspoke, or slow wave sleep. I'm referring to my notes over here on the side if you haven't already noticed, but since I'm not wearing my glasses, I'm sometimes skipping over certain things. But deep sleep or slow wave sleep restores our physical energy and helps to sharpen our attention span the next day. So, this is obvious. When you don't sleep enough, you feel tired the next day. And if you're tired the next day, then you're not going to be able to have the energy to exercise. You're not going to have the energy to clean house or do your laundry or grocery shop. And you're not going to have the energy to cook healthy food for yourself to stay on a healthy track because a healthy brain and a healthy body are connected. And everything that we put into our body impacts our brain in one way or another. But guess what? You have to have the physical energy to be able to take good care of yourself and to be able to make good decisions for yourself as to what activities you do and what kinds of things you eat. So, slow wave sleep or deep sleep helps to restore that physical energy that is required of us to be able to take care of ourselves and our loved ones. Physical energy is obviously also important for doing tasks that are very important, such as driving a car, hello, where your life and others' lives are at risk. So, Dr. Walker gives a lot of examples of how sleep deprivation leads to greater accidents and can be a life or death situation literally. Also, your ability to sharpen your attention and stay concentrated and focused the next day. Well, I don't have to tell you why that's important, but if you go to a day job like I do, and if your tasks at your day job get to be very repetitive or mundane, you're absolutely going to have trouble staying focused and paying attention if you're sleep deprived. So, staying in a healthy range of good sleep every single night is going to help you be able to do your job better the next day, whether you work for yourself or you work for someone else or you're raising a family. Maybe you work inside the home. You have a lot to focus on every single day. Here's a quick analogy. I like to think of sleep as our body's time to refresh the operating system. We make updates in our natural operating system when we sleep. We're able to hit the save button and hold all the work and memories that we created that day. Whereas if you don't hit save on your computer, you lose that work, right? It goes away. And you don't want to work so hard to just lose it all. So, in order to hit the save button and save all of your mental work, you do that naturally by getting enough sleep every night. And if you have an iPhone or any other kind of smartphone, which I'm sure you do because you're living in this century, then you know that when our phones are charged at night and plugged in, they're recharging the battery, which is what sleep does for our physical energy. It recharges our battery so that we have enough energy to work the next day and function well. It updates our operating system. So think about that as putting those memories into place, helping us learn new things, helping us feel refreshed the next day so that we function well and we don't lose our memories and things don't get jumbled up and kind of go into failure. So think of your brain as an operating system. It's quite helpful and quite useful for any of you who are more logic based and don't like the woo woo superpowers that sleep gives you, which I could go on and on about that too. Quick tip, a lot of us that have trouble focusing or have ADHD also very commonly have difficulty falling asleep. One simple thing you can do to improve your ability to fall asleep on time is avoiding screens 1 hour before bedtime and 1 hour after you wake up. So if you can start practicing those habits, you will find that your brain is able to wake up easier in the morning and also is able to unwind and unplug and sleep better at night. Now, I plan to do a much more in-depth podcast on sleep hygiene, is what we call it in the medical world. And I will happily do that because a lot of us need a more in-depth training on that. But for now, if you can do that one habit, no screens an hour before you go to bed and no screens an hour after you wake up, you will find the quality of your attention and your sleep improve dramatically over time. Maybe not in the first day, but I guarantee you, if you stick with it, it will help you in the long run. The second S is study. And when I talk about study, what I'm referring to is self-awareness. Study more about yourself. There is a saying that says, clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from knowing yourself better. And clarity is important because clarity is what is how we learn about ourselves in how we decide what we want. What do we want out of life? What do I want out of today? What's important to me? What's not important to me? What are my values? What is my why for starting my business, or my why for getting in healthier shape, or my why for clearing out debt? What are the reasons that I want to do the things I want to do? That comes from a deep sense of clarity, and clarity comes from a deep sense of self-awareness. Now, how do you gain better self-awareness? Well, you really have to study your thoughts. You have to study the patterns that you have, the patterns that you repeat in life. You have to study what triggers your anxiety or your depression or whatever emotions creep in during the day that distract you from working toward your goals. What triggers your distraction if it's not a deep emotion? Is it that you say yes to your kids more than you say yes to yourself? Is it that you say yes to your social circle more than you say yes to yourself? Really deciding what are the patterns that I'm doing. And just by studying those patterns, what are the patterns I'm repeating? You will have so much better self-awareness down the line. Now, one thing that helped me in this area in my life was studying my journal entries. I was in the habit of journaling every single day when I was learning to develop a morning routine to improve my mood, improve my energy, improve my focus throughout the day. And I found journaling to be very soothing to me in the morning. But what I was doing was I was writing every single day. And after the course of months or years, that writing became a little bit more robotic and mundane and less reflective. And how I discovered that was I decided one day, I'm not going to write today. Instead of writing, I'm going to start reading my journal because I have journals and journals full of stuff that's up here, thoughts, feelings, goals, ideas. And what I found was when I decided to journal only on days I was feeling really inspired or wanted to really reflect on a thought or a question, the rest of the days were that time was opened up for me to be able to go back and read previous journal entries. And it doesn't matter if you go back a week, month, 6 months, or a few years, you are going to see so many patterns about your thoughts, so many patterns about your actions, and you're going to study and learn so much about yourself and how you function. So instead of feeling like you're constantly on a hamster wheel and repeating the same negative cycles, you're going to gain an eye-opening experience there. You're going to gain so much insight into how you function. It's going to help you know yourself better. When you know yourself better, you're more self-aware. And when you're more self-aware, you have a much higher satisfaction with your day, with your life, with your actions in general. It's a known fact that people who are more self-aware live happier lives. They're more content. They find more joy. And, oh, sorry, losing my voice here. And they get better results in the long term, in the long run, because they're able to recognize patterns in themselves. So study those journal entries. I promise you, it will be very powerful. Even if you give yourself 30 minutes a day for journaling, on the days you don't feel inspired to write, use those 30 minutes to read and read your journal entries, read about what you wrote, read about yourself. You're going to learn a lot. Trust me. The other thing that's very helpful is studying your habits and your calendar. You cannot manage your time well if you don't understand how you use it. Now, this is the same concept as, let's say you want to get out of debt and get more control of your money. And the first place you have to start is with a budget. And everybody will tell you, well, to build a budget, you have to look at what you bring in and what you spend. But also what you have to do, a lot of budget finance people don't also tell you, is that you have to go back and track what you've spent your money on in the past when you weren't on a budget, because that's how you're going to recognize where you can make cuts, where you can streamline your financial resources. If you don't go back and study what your habits were before in spending, you're not going to be able to create a realistic and budget that you can stick to and that will have meaning and still provide you with the things you need. And you'll be able to see what is a need versus a want, right? The same concept is true for how you spend your time. If you're not tracking all the things you do in a day to spend time, you can continuously get into this cycle where you say, I can't work on my goals because I don't have enough time. You use time as an excuse. I was guilty of this too, and this is very common. I know you've done it because I do it all the time still. To this day, I have to catch myself. But when I started using a calendar and when I learned to block my time throughout the day and track where time was going before I started this process, I realized how much time I could gain back and reclaim during my day. And I no longer had to fall back on the lame excuse of, I don't have enough time. Listen, you have the same 24 hours in a day that I have. You have the same 24 hours as leaders of great nations. You have the same 24 hours as the most high earning CEOs of the world. And you too can create the time in your life to work on the goals that are important to you. I promise you, you have enough time. What we have to get back to is studying the habit of managing the time that we have. Ah, so powerful. Why does this matter? Well, when you're scattered, it's easy to forget your why. It's easy to forget your core goals. It's easy to forget your mission statement or your vision statement that you make for yourself when you're deciding you want to build your own business. It's easy to forget your desires and what is driving you to those desires. And it's easier when you forget those things to make excuses for yourself. So if you want to turn that around, this is such a powerful tool. Self-study also builds a strong memory of your own mental journey. Like I mentioned before, it's so crucial to become aware of what your thought patterns are in your life, because once you're able to do that, it helps to keep you grounded and it helps to push you forward so that when you do get into a negative cycle of thought that's not serving you or not supporting your goals, you can catch yourself easier. You can say, hey, wait a minute. I know you. I've been distracted by you before, Mr. Thought, and you do not support my goal of building my business or creating more content or becoming a writer or whatever your goal is. And I promise you, once you start to become aware of that pattern, you're going to become very powerful, my friend. Here's a little power quote that I want to put in. This is from Carl Jung. He said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Think about that. So really study your time, really study yourself. The third and final S is select. Now, select helps us to focus because we are going to select what activities we're going to spend time on today. We're going to select what's important to us and what's not. We're going to select what we say yes to in our day and what we say no to in our day. And when you're able to start selecting more wisely and more carefully and mindfully, you will be so surprised at how much more focus you have during the day and how you can support your focus into what you actually want to do, not what you actually wish you could do. This, my friends, is a deep form of self-respect, selecting. There's an anonymous quote. I love quotes, so I'm going to throw them in all the time. This one is anonymous. I don't know who wrote it or said it, but if you know, please drop it in the comments and let me know so that I can become more informed. But I read this somewhere and I forget where, but I brought it into this outline when I made it a few months ago. It says, your selections tell the truth even when your words don't. So it's easy for us to say, oh, I want to work out more. I want to build a budget I can stick to. I want to get out of debt. I want to have a business. But if we're not selecting the activities that we're doing, then we're going to keep letting excuses creep up, and we're going to use time as an excuse or distraction as an excuse or fill in the blank. This is an easy way and a powerful way how we can put our old excuses to rest, and we can change and transform the path we take forward. Be intentional. How do you choose to spend your time when no one's looking? Ask yourself that question. When no one's here to keep me accountable, what do? Do I lay on the couch? Do I turn on Netflix? It's okay if you do. Sometimes it's okay to binge Netflix if you need downtime to decompress and if you like your reason for why you're doing it. It's not okay to do a Netflix binge when you're using it to avoid the things that you do have time to do and you're just not wanting to feel comfortable. You're feeling uncomfortable and you don't want to let yourself feel uncomfortable. That's when we have to push ourselves. That's when we got to push through and transform into something different. Select what gets your best energy every day. Ask yourself why often. Why am I saying yes to this meeting? Why am I allowing myself to sit here and scroll? Is this my plan? Why do I like this plan, or why do I not like this plan? Either way, ask yourself why often and about everything. Also keep in mind that your choices of what you select reveal your boundaries. Select and boundaries go hand in hand. I coach clients on this all of the time. We oftentimes use life circumstances as excuses as to why we get distracted from our goals, when in reality, when we dig deeper and we peel back the layers, we find that it's more of a lack of boundaries, or it's weak boundaries, or it's inconsistent boundaries. And boundaries are healthy, my friend. Boundaries are good for you. Boundaries are what keep us in check and what keep us on the path of safety. But boundaries can also be uncomfortable if our path requires us to do things differently in a different way or in a different order, or requires us to learn new skills that are different from what previous skills we had in our life. So when you create boundaries, you are deciding how and when you protect your time and how and when you give it away when it's appropriate, but also when it's not. Here's a quick practice you can do every day. You can either do this in the morning or you can do this at night before you go to sleep. Make a select list. Tomorrow or today, whenever you're making the list, right, I will select these 3 things that I will focus my time and energy to. And you decide how much time and energy you want to give it. Even if you want to give it 5 minutes, that's okay. You're selecting something that moves you closer toward your goal. And you don't have to spend a lot of time to reach that goal. Micro habits and baby steps is yet another podcast topic at a later date. Also ask yourself, if an unexpected hour opens up in my day tomorrow, let's say a client cancels a call, what am I going to do? What am I going to default to in that hour? So have a backup for yourself. Your calendar is dynamic. It changes throughout the day and it can change from one minute to the other. So when things don't happen the way you plan them to, make a plan for yourself of what you're going to default to. What's my default button going to be? What's my default setting going to be? Am I going to default to letting myself go back to the couch and Netflix? And I use that example because I like to binge Netflix sometimes. Okay, guys, I'm not harping on anybody or judging anybody about that. But it is a powerful tool, like to stop and ask yourself, okay, if I get an hour free that breaks up, ooh, am I going to let myself watch an episode of you fill in the blank? And you do it. And if you do it because it's fun and you're enjoying it and you love it and you have that time to spend, then it's okay. That can be a healthy unplug, a healthy decompress sometimes. You don't have to fill up your calendar with work or projects or goals 24/7. That's not the goal. That's not the underlying message here that I'm trying to get at. I hope that's coming across clearly. All right, guys. If anything that you've heard today resonates with you and you'd like to go deeper, or you think you might benefit from receiving coaching on any of these topics, or how to move forward in your life with good transformative habits and processes that support you, please send me an email. You can reach me at veronica@focusedmindcoach.com. And when you send me an email there, I will send you a booking link so we can talk together one-on-one. I love talking to new people one-on-one. I love diving in and discovering if we're a good fit for each other. I'm also happy to announce that I have developed a group coaching program that is set to launch on July 30th, depending on when you're listening to or watching this podcast. July 30th of 2025, we're going to be diving into a new group coaching program. So if you hear this message before then and you're interested in what that entails, again, send me an email, veronica@focusedmindcoach.com, and I will be happy to get on a call with you and talk about all the details and all the wonderful things that will happen in your life when you start receiving coaching and making transformations. I'm going to leave you with this thought to reflect on. Focus isn't about forcing your brain to sit still. It's about creating an ecosystem through rest, reflection, and intention, where clarity and mindfulness can naturally emerge. So tonight, will you honor your need for sleep? Please do. Tomorrow, will you study the path you've walked? And today, right now, what will you select? Thank you for staying with me to the very end. I look forward to our next episode of the Focus in 3D podcast. For now, I'm signing off. This is Veronica, your focus coach.